Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on a Friday afternoon. I'm Cesar Delgado. I am your host of today's program. We are talking with the Lasalle County Farm Bureau David Isserrmann in Streator, Illinois. We were talking about the cover crop on David's farm in Streator, Illinois. Then I'm going with my friend and my colleague Shawn Haney from Real Agriculture in Canada. We were talking about the fertilizer markets for today's world of tariffs with Shawn. Otherwise, this is your rural news sponsored by AgriGold. The tariffs was putting it for yesterday by the president. The tariffs for the European Union and UK. On Sunday, there was more tariffs for China, about 25% in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. They were getting more snow in the Midwest on this week. This weekend is going to be having some snow in central Illinois. Finally, happy Valentine's Day to you guys on the show. This is your rural news. This is your commodities markets for this afternoon, sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. Corn and beans prices are up at 3 to 6 cents on the board because in South America weather conditions is good for this week. Wheat futures is up at 5 to 9 cents because they are getting more snow in the southern plains. Chicago wheat is up at 3 to 5 cents at the half on the day. Let's take a look for the livestock. Cattle and feeder cattle is down at 5 to 10 cents. The cash cattle is steady at 5 to 10. Lean hogs is down at 9 to 5 cents. The cash hogs markets are up at 5 to 10 cents for Iowa and Minnesota. This is your commodities markets for this afternoon. We are talking with the Lasalle County Farm Bureau David Isserrmann in Streator, Illinois. Let's discuss about your operation in Streator. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, Caesar. I farm in the southeastern part of LaSalle County, east of Streator. I have corn, soybeans, pasture and hay, and we have a cow-calf operation. I farm with my youngest son, Jim.
How was the yield for this fall?
We had generally good yields this fall for both corn and soybeans. It was dry later on in the year, and I think that took the top end off the yields, but we were overall pleased. We're concerned now about the lack of moisture, and it's going to require some moisture this spring in order to have a good crop.
Great to hear that. Great to hear that. Of course. Let's discuss it. What is your duties of the Lasalle County Farm Bureau?
Well, I am the president of the board of the LaSalle County Farm Bureau. We represent approximately 1,600 what we call voting members. Most of them are farmers. Some of them are individuals who are involved in agriculture. They could be technicians for a equipment company that could sell crop products. But those are the people that we represent. And we provide information and try to influence legislation. We do a lot of lobbying to try to help our members achieve financial goals and have a better quality of life. So that's what we do at LaSalle County Farm Bureau. And my job is to conduct board meetings, get the consensus of the board, what they think we should be doing, and have our staff do what we can to implement those ideas. We do a lot of contact with a lot of our legislators. LaSalle County has 5 state representatives, 3 state senators, and 2 U.S. congressmen. So we have quite a bit of legislative activity we keep track of.
What is the goal for this year in LaSalle County Farm Bureau?
Well, we have a number of goals. One is we'd like to keep an eye on what's going on in Springfield. There are usually a number of issues that come up that would not be good for the farmers. We work with Illinois Farm Bureau to try to make our concerns known to the legislators, to try to get things that work the best for the farmers. And then we also work on the national level and on the local level too. We have a really good relationship with the county board. We try to maintain communication with them. And our goal is to try to improve the financial well-being and the quality of life of our members. We're in a period of time where crop prices are low, expenses are high, so we would like to do everything we can to see those expenses go down and maybe increase the prices by selling more of our product and trying to improve that aspect.
How is the cash bids in South Strader and Varna?
The cash bids, let me look here real quick and I can tell you what they were last night. Got to find where I've got them stored. Where are we at here? Here we are. What? So, bids last night. This is in southern LaSalle County, southeastern LaSalle County. Cash corn was $4.56, up 6 cents. February beans were $9.88, up 3 cents. Fall corn was sitting at $4.42, and fall beans at $10.08. So the beans are up a little bit. We're glad to see them over $10. We'd sure like to see corn up to $5 or more. But those are, it's improved in the last month or so. So we're happy about that.
Of course. Finally, this question is fun one because I live in Ottawa. Which high school football team, Ottawa or Strader, and basketball team as well?
Well, Ottawa and Streator has a great rivalry, and that goes back years and years and years. I think it's one of the longest rivalries in the state of Illinois. And as I said before, I'm a graduate of Streator High School, so I'm a bulldog, and our saying is once a bulldog, always a bulldog. I have a grandson that plays on the Streator football team. He was a junior this year. He'll be a senior next year. So I'm going to have to vote for Streator on that one, Caesar.
I thought that LP was our rivalry.
You do have a big rivalry with LP, and you've always had that. But I think the rivalry with Streeter is almost as long, if not longer. So um, we don't seem to have the same rivalry with LP that you do. Of course, we're not in the same conference anymore, but we do get to play you guys both in football and I think sometimes in basketball in the tournament. So it's always a good rivalry. It's always fun to go to Ottawa and watch a game, and we enjoy those contests.
Sure. Thanks, David. I enjoyed our conversation for today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been very.
I'm going with my friend and my colleague, Shawn Haney from Real Agriculture in Canada.
Hey, Caesar.
Hey, Shawn, how are you today in Alberta? Do you think that we have any concerns about these fertilizer tariffs from Canada?
Oh, yeah. Well, Caesar, it's great to be with you here today. I really do appreciate getting the opportunity to be on your podcast. It was great to meet you in person at the National Association of Farm Broadcasters meeting. That was great. You are really, truly an inspiring member of NAFB, so it is great to be here with you. Yeah, I think there is a lot of concern about what could potentially happen here with tariffs. If you look at fertilizer, for example, we're looking at there's potash only in certain parts of the world. And one of the biggest potash deposits is in the province of Saskatchewan, which is, of course, in Canada. And if you look at the amount of potash that's used in the United States on a yearly basis, so on the 90 million acres of corn or in the wheat acre, however, 87% of that potash comes from Saskatchewan. So just imagine if there was a 25% tariff on all of that potash coming into the province, the added cost that would be on the American farmer. I think it's pretty significant.
Good to have you. I admire your work in Canada. However, the fertilizer is unnecessary.
Yeah, it is. Like you can't go without the fertilizer. And you also can't find it else. Like you can, we talk about some of the change that the American government is looking for, trying to bring all that manufacturing back to the United States. You can apply that to, say, a car plant. Okay, so we've heard the president talk about this, moving a car plant from Ontario, moving it to Michigan to bring those jobs back to the U.S. You can't relocate a potash mine. That deposit's been there for 360 million years. Okay, so and the U.S. does not have the potash deposits of any sort that is close to what Saskatchewan can produce. And so you're either going to have to get it from Canada, or you're going to have to get it from Russia. And so that's kind of the decision that the U.S. government is going to have to make in terms of how they apply the tariffs, and does it become more difficult for U.S. farmers to import Canadian potash, as an example.
The farmers meet it in Illinois. We grow corn and beans.
Yep, that's totally correct, my friend. It's needed, and there's no way to avoid it. If you avoid it and you just say, well, I'm not going to incur the cost and I'm not going to use as much potash, that's hurting your yield, which then works its way back to how much you have to sell. And if you have less to sell, then you're less profitable. So this is one of the key topics here for U.S. farmers, and why we've seen like the Fertilizer Institute pushing for exemptions, where this is a needed product, it's an essential product, therefore should face an exemption, and so that's why there's been so much lobbying for that kind of decision if we do see these tariffs put in place.
How is the cash grains for right now? Because our cash grains is so-so. I talked to the farmer. He worries about the beans markets for China.
Yep, justifiable concern. Same concerns. Like I mentioned that earlier about the concern about trade. And just like the soybean grower in the U.S. is concerned about the demand in China and how much soybean and corn and well, beef the Chinese consumer needs right now. Canadian producers have the same concerns. Will China be a big buyer of things like peas? Will China be a big buyer of Canadian canola, which they traditionally have? There's challenges, there's issues and friction between Canada and China when it comes to Canadian beef that goes back a couple years. But we also have challenges as well with countries like India, for example. And Prime Minister Modi was at the White House this week. India is very difficult to trade with. They try to really protect and support their domestic farmers, and that kind of decides how much product they're willing to bring into the country. And but at the same time, Canada also trades with the EU and ships product there as well, which doesn't come without issues and friction points at the same time. I think if you look at both Canada and the US, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of the same frustrations with China, India, and the EU. But obviously there's there's also frustration and issues and challenges between Canada and the United States too, on things like Canada's dairy policy, on Canada being able to participate in the biofuel market in the U.S. and how the U.S. participates in the Canadian biofuel system, and so there's no shortage of challenges. It's just, can you get through some of the noise of it and find some better solutions?
Yeah, it is pretty important for our economy. I think that we need more green light to the trade than the tariffs, Bobby.
Yeah, I know. I think trade is good. Agriculture, it's critical for agriculture that there is market development and trade happening. If all of a sudden the world became very protectionist, and just imagine what it would mean for rural America, for example, if all of a sudden China said, you know what, we do not need your soybeans. It would be very bad. It'd be disastrous. And Canada is even more reliant on exports than the US is, because Canada has, very substantial resources and substantial land. And so, and in combination of that, with only 40 million people, we can only consume so much of our produced products. We have to trade. And I think one of the big concerning things here is that the trade that we have known for the past 30 years may not be the trade in the future, and is trying to sort out what that's actually going to look like and how you navigate it so that you're still able to ship product to customers around the world when they want it.
Illinois is number one for corn to Mexico and China with beans.
Yeah. Yep. And Caesar, home of the best football team eventually. we're we're both big Chicago Bears fans, but hopefully next year's better.
And the University of Illinois. Do
Yeah.
you have any final thoughts on this spring season in Northern Country?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I think spirits are lifting a little bit in terms of some of the pricing that is out there. We still got a ways to go. Still like to see more run in these prices, provided that we can hold the input prices, a little bit neutral and they don't get out of hand. And any gains that are made in the pricing market, if they're mitigated by rising fertilizer costs, that's gonna, it's not gonna make much of a difference. But I think the biggest concern from a Western Canadian standpoint is Mother Nature. And the dry bias that we have seen, it seems more often than not. When I talk to some of the meteorologists that are out there, there's a lot of concern about potentially how dry it could be this year again. That impacts states like North Dakota and Montana as well. So be watching that very closely. And honestly, I hope that Canada and the U.S. can find some common ground here, be able to get over some of the differences, some of the challenges, and there's give on both sides for sure. And we can really have the thriving economic relationship that many of us have come to know and appreciate. So, and I do, Caesar, very much appreciate you and what you're doing here. And like I said to you at the beginning, I find how you've pushed yourself to host a podcast very, very inspirational. So I want to wish you all the best and all your listeners the best, and a great 2025.
Yeah, it will be drought for this summer in the Midwest. Thanks. Thanks, Shawn. I enjoyed our conversation for today, but we need some peanut gallery with Chip Floy and Michelson for next time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this too. Thanks so much. And like I said, it was great to meet you. And Chip introduced me to you in November when we were at the NAFB meeting, and I'm glad he did. And I want to wish you all the best. Cheers.
This is Shawn Haney from Real Agriculture in Canada on back roads of Illinois. Thanks to David Isserrmann from Lasalle County Farm Bureau and Shawn Haney from Real Agriculture in Canada. This been Back Roads of Illinois. I'm Cesar Delgado. You have a great weekend.